Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Open Source Cafe. And today we're talking about a really interesting topic, which is how to not get hacked. And it's pretty interesting because security is important, and you always should follow some of the best practices, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. So before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to Ben for joining us for this session. Hi Ben, would you like to tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I know, Kunal. Thank you for the intro. I'm Ben Arent. I'm a DevOps engineer at Teleport. And Teleport is a product, it's an open source product that provides secure access to infrastructure. And we started off with servers, but we've since added applications, databases, Kubernetes clusters. You might think, why would you need such a device? And hopefully we'll go deep in this presentation about how not to get hacked and how having traditionally you'd call this a bastion. Having sort of these other tools and services can help you keep secure.
Yeah, and if you want to get started with Teleport, make sure you check out the links in the description below. And we'll also be doing a separate session on like a deep dive on it. So make sure you subscribe. And yeah, let's get started. So what was like the motivation behind this, like session? Why do you think it matters? Like the points that we'll be discussing.
So I have a podcast where I've been interviewing leaders in their field. It's called Access Control. I'll give you a link to it. And many of these things have sort of come up. And actually, I was speaking to an FBI agent the other week, and his number one tip was our tip number two, which was like use 2FA and use a password manager. I'm going to give too many hints away. But it's funny that even, like an FBI agent to a relatively advanced technology audience is giving this advice. And I think a lot of these tips may seem kind of obvious, but I
Hmm.
think we're all likely of like using the same
Hmm.
password or doing things that we probably shouldn't. And so these are sort of some
Yeah.
reminders of things you should do.
Yeah, most definitely, and we're looking forward to it. Hopefully, we'll all learn something today, and some of the best practices. So, Ben, take it away. This video is sponsored by Teleport, enabling engineers to quickly unify access to any computing resource anywhere on the planet. Check out the links in the description below to get started. Are you juggling with shared secrets, SSH keys, or hopping between VPNs and multiple access points? Check out Teleport to quickly access your computing resources from anywhere. Teleport allows engineers and security professionals to unify access for SSH servers, Kubernetes clusters, web applications, and databases across all environments. With a unified resource catalog, there is no need to maintain inventories. You can also work together to troubleshoot a problem with your colleagues on a remote server or on each other's laptops and record these sessions as well using shared sessions. Teleport also provides ready-to-use auth for your internal web applications. Easily implement security and compliance with Teleport to adopt industry best practices for access across all protocols and all environments with minimal configuration. How does it work? Teleport is a single binary which enables secure access to SSH nodes, Kubernetes clusters, web apps, and databases. Deployed as a single binary, it seamlessly integrates with the rest of your stack. Get started with Teleport now and try it for free. Check out the links in the description below for more information.
All right, so how not to get hacked. This is 12 practical security tips. This is primarily for developers because there's a few sort of things with secrets and code. But even if you're not a developer and you're just sort of interested, there's still some sort of good practices at the beginning. So kicking off our first best practice is one, just use a password manager. And so a password manager is a secure place of storing your passwords, which is kind of obvious. It's kind of like a vault. But there's many other benefits of using a password manager. One of the first things is it make it makes it very easy to create and populate passwords. And so what that means is when you go to a new site, instead of picking your same password 123, you can easily get a very long string and then save it. And then another sort of hidden kind of like benefit of password managers is when you go to a website and fill in a password, the password manager fills in the password for you. So if you were to have a keylogger, the keylogger doesn't work because your password is sort of automatically being filled in. And then I think one of the third ones for password managers are it makes it easier to share passwords. If you're
Hmm.
using like one password would be one I'd highly recommend, or LastPass. And I
Hmm.
think there's another few open source password offerings. But even if you just
Yeah.
use the Chrome built-in password manager, that's a great place to start.
It's also really good for when you want to give someone an access to some account and don't want to share the password with them. So I believe LastPass has a functionality in this. For example, when I stream on cloudnative.tv, for example, I don't have the password to that, but I have like the LastPass and just click on launch and it automatically logs me in. So that way they don't really have to share the password with me, but
Yeah,
I
but you can
can
get
still access
access.
the application. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which one do you use, by the way, for your own personal use?
I use one password, and we use one password. I use personally and
Yeah.
at work. And I think one of the benefits of one password is you have these different vaults, so you have different
Mm.
teams. It makes it easy to share passwords.
And and what do you think about saving the passwords in browser?
I think saving the password in browser is a good place to start too. I spoke to a security expert the other week, and
Mm.
one controversial thing, which is should you run the password extension? And some people recommend actually not using the Chrome extension for one part, like password
Mm.
managers. People, I think it's fine to run the password manager in the browser.
Sounds good. Cool. Alrighty.
All right, okay, let's go on. Number two. Second one, use 2FA. So 2FA stands for second factor, and this can be like in this photo is a YubiKey, or it can be a soft token on your phone, like an OTP application, like Google Authenticator. And what this does is it prevents people from, if they have your password, they need to use the second factor. And often that second factor you either have on you, such as like a YubiKey, or they would have to get access to your phone. There is you may often see services provide like SMS second factor, which is okay, but there's many cases of SIM swapping in which someone can go to your telephone provider, get your phone number, and then easily get your second factor. So if you have the option, try to use ideally. I think the strongest would be a hardware token. Next would be your telephone, and then third would be SMS. Do you use any
And
at all?
here we no, I use the authenticator app of Google. Yeah.
Yeah,
Then you
yeah.
also get, I believe, in case you lose access to it. There's actually, pretty like it's also like if you lose access to your tokens or whatever, you won't be able to log in. I was like really into Snapchat, right? So I was like, I used to spend a lot of time on it with the nice filters and stuff. And I used to like deactivate it, then activate it again, then uninstall, install again. So it was like taking a lot of my time. So what I did was I actually set up two-factor authentication, and then I did not save the key, recovery key, and
So
then I
you
sort
locked
of just
yourself
like
out.
then I deleted it, and now I locked myself out. It's been like 3 years, and I haven't been able to log in.
Yeah, many services will let you use multiple, like add multiple second factors. And, this is kind of a poor practice here. I have like three YubiKeys on my keyring. Ideally, I would put one like, somewhere safe as a backup. So if something was to happen and I was to lose my keys, I would easily have the second one. It can be difficult to, so you have to like sometimes go through support. I even had to get my driving license notarized to get my AWS account back after changing telephones, and I didn't swap over my AWS key to the new phone. So, also when you buy a new phone, just be sure to change over your authenticator app.
Yep.
Uh, all right, number three is use personal access tokens. These I guess we're getting more into the world of developer. So once you actually add a second factor on GitHub, I believe it makes you use a personal access token. And if you're using GitHub, there's many benefits of using personal access tokens over either SSH or um, HTTPS authentication. One is you can more narrowly scope the permissions, and then also it has pretty helpful expiry. So if someone was to get your personal access token, it's very easy to revoke them. So in my case, I have like a range of different machines which access GitHub. I can scope short tokens and then I can easily revoke them. So the one quirk I'd say with GitHub is it doesn't always make it very clear. It might ask for a password, but it actually wants a personal access token. So if you turn on high security, that might happen to you. Coming up, Also, Git, don't put your secrets in Git.
They're
And
specific to developers. So,
yeah, now we're in the world of developers. And there's many ways in which you can handle secrets. Like depending on the programming language, normally like a .n file is normally the best practice. If you have a .n file, don't upload your .n file to GitHub either, because then your secrets get added. So be sure to add your git ignore to .n before you upload it. And then you might want to upload your secrets to GitHub if you're using, let's say, GitHub Actions, and they actually have a great post on how you can encrypt your secrets with GitHub Actions. And I think probably the last question often comes up is like, how do you share your environment tokens? And actually, this goes into my sort of next point is to use a dedicated secret manager. And so, let's say you're developing on your local machine. Let's say you have like Twilio and you get like your Twilio API key. You might hard code it. Then you want to put it into GitHub, so you don't want to like put your Twilio API key in GitHub. So then you put it in a .n file and you just have it locally. But if you want to, like have the application running, you need to sort of use the application needs to access that secret securely. And in this case, use a dedicated secret manager. Most cloud providers have one, and
yeah,
often
that's what I want to say. Hmm.
often they're like pretty free. I think within like 100 keys or something.
Hmm.
So AWS has its secrets manager. Google has a secret manager, very similar product, and I believe Azure has the same kind of tool, and it just makes it very easy. Often you can like add it to your program to give your program secure access to secrets.
Yeah. Some like cloud providers also offer like identity access management, right? So they can
Yeah,
apply some rules and stuff, like who has access to these secrets and stuff. So I think that's also an additional benefit as compared to your environment variable files or something.
yes, very true. And I think another benefit of if you're in like the Amazon ecosystem, if you use Secret Manager, you can use that secret in like Lambda or EC2 or these like other services that you're using very easily without really thinking about it. So it also makes rotating and adding a second secret, much easier
Hmm.
as well. So coming on here, number 6. This is a fun one, which is
Yeah.
I always do this. I always run as root.
Yeah, been there.
And you'll often hear, people say like, don't run as root. But people don't always explain why you don't want to run as root. And so we can spend a bit of time going into why root is a bad idea. I think one of the first reasons is basically everyone knows root is this privileged account. So it's like the number one thing to get targeted. And so that's why you should always disable logins for the root account. I think the next one is also people always make mistakes. So if you are logging as root an account and you do like rmrf star, like you try and delete everything, root's not going to be like, yo, do you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Um, and there's other things. So, if you were in a user account, it'd be like, oh, please use sudo or something else to perform these sort of actions. Next up, I think we have privilege escalation. And this is pretty common, especially if you're running Docker workloads. Your Docker containers might run as root, which is also a bad example. And so what happens is often there's vulnerabilities in Docker containers. If someone gets access to your Docker container, they can easily access through privilege escalation your root
Hmm.
host. Put in like a backdoor, and then they have access to your machine. So Docker is one of those interesting ones because often if you download Docker containers off the internet, sometimes developers have already set it as root. So sometimes it's a good time to like inspect what the best practice they're doing.
This also reminds me like when you get stuck, you Google some and you find some commands or whatever. Don't run anything like just copy pasting whatever you find on the internet.
Yes, be wary about what you copy and paste.
Yeah.
Um, it's often actually I have this device at home, Home Assistant, for some home automation, and
Hmm.
you actually need to like self cross-site script yourself to get the Nest integration to work. And if you open the browser in Nest website, it says like do not copy and paste stuff into here.
Hmm.
And I believe Facebook does the same thing. because
mm,
you can very easily self XSS yourself as well.
mm.
And
Yep.
then I think the last kind of benefit of not running as root is accountability. If you run as user accounts, you have more audit logs about what's happened. There's less auditing if you're running in non-root. So in practice, what this means is, like use sudo or use sort of privileged user accounts, set up your applications, and then for different services, run them in non-root. And I think a great example, like if you're using Docker, there's a few services that you can use to run Docker in like rootless. I think
Mm.
Podman is one of the services from Red Hat that makes it very easy. So look for services out of the box that make it easy to do like best practices.
Yep.
So number 6, reduce attack area. This actually, I've done 6 twice. Obviously my numbers are off this morning. So this is quite a broad topic. In the world of developers, this could mean, like use a firewall, only open up the ports which you need for your service. That will greatly reduce people who are running port scanners. Only run the programs that you need to run. Don't run other programs and other hosts that aren't necessary. And then this could even be like, just in your personal life, like let's say you're really into cryptocurrency. Don't tell everyone about it. Like if you want to post on Twitter, like use a pseudonym. There's many things that you can do personally to protect your own attack area. So if someone
It's
knows you
like
have a lot of money.
staying like cautious, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
And there's other things you can do. So often people say like changing security through obscurity isn't valuable. And so an example would be default SSH port is on port 22, change it to a different number. It's still possible to find that port, but it makes it harder for the people running these like mass internet-wide port scanners on your host. So someone has to go just like a little bit more effort to find whatever you have. And so just by reducing your attack area, it will be easier. And then if you have any reporting alerting on your sort of obscure ports, you can be more worried that something malicious or something bad is trying to happen to your site.
Yeah.
And then in a similar vein, if you do need to run questionable code, run it in an isolated environment. And this was a tip that I got from one of my podcast guests. He said, like, there's always this argument between security professionals and developers. Developers, just want to like download and run everything. And often there's projects that you want to use which are great and needed. An example would be like a PDF converter, and it could be this huge, monstrous program that you're not quite exactly sure what it does, and it's like poorly maintained. And if it just does one job really well, like take that PDF converter that you have, put it into a separate container or a Lambda, and then just run it in that isolated environment. So if there is some privilege escalation or something bad happens, the worst thing that happens is they pop that small container that's already like sort of a sandbox. And so you sort of like put your input into this black box, you get your output in, anything crazy happens, after a minute or so, it gets destroyed anyway. So that's sort of a good tip that I got recently. Number 8, just change defaults. And I think I guess there's defaults such as like the SSH port number we just talked about, but there's also defaults such as out of the box, some hosting providers will give you a SSH password when you get started. So if you have like a dedicated hosting provider, they give you a password. One, change the password so their team doesn't have access to it. But then there's more secure options than just the default. So next up, you would have using public-private keys, in which you create a private key on your box, you create a public key, you upload the public key to your host, and that's much more secure than your SSH password. It's longer, it's limited, but public-private keys are a good starting point, but there becomes another problem. Let's say you have more people joining your project. It becomes difficult to add more and more public-private keys. So if you have, like, let's say you're doing a hack day and you just want like 10 people to come hack on a project, if you want to get them access to the host, you have to like upload all of their public keys to all of the hosts. And so this is one of the things that Teleport does really well is we make it very easy to provide SSH certificates, which sort of are the strongest short-lived version for getting SSH access. And then beyond just like SSH access, often many open source tools that you sort of download and use, whether it is like Kubernetes or Nginx. Kubernetes for a long time had system masters as a sort of the default user. And this is a way overprivileged user. So when you get system masters, similar to root, create a user with less privilege for the majority of things that you need and only use system masters for the most critical administration that you need to do. And then also I've seen this for performance too. If you have like Nginx or HA proxy, you can get lots of optimization just by tweaking a few things because just out of the box, things aren't always as finely tuned. All right, number 9, trust and check the SHAs. So for people who are sort of new to this, like what is a SHA, you probably see this quite often in websites. If you're downloading software, you'll have the download link of the program, and then you'll have like a long kind of string, and then say like this is the checksum of the program. And the reason for having the checksum is it's just to verify that the program that you have downloaded has not been either corrupt or tampered with by someone else. So what could happen is it's just 2 points of verification. It doesn't 100% stop you from someone, let's say, maliciously uploading an incorrect program and incorrect SHA, but it's sort of a good place to get started. And then actually some distros will even sort of enforce that you need to download sort of the keys before you can install their programs as well to verify them. And then if you look at some program signing, if you want to go really deep, you can see whether it's signed by sort of a known entity and it might link to their GPG key, or whether it's sort of unsigned or possibly less trusted. Which sort of brings me to 10, like just, watch what you download, which...
Pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty self-explanatory. But I think that this is like a wide spectrum. I think sometimes people download things without knowing it, and I think this is sort of where phishing comes in. Phishing attempts can just be you click a link, and I mean, like if you don't necessarily download the link, you maybe go to a website, enter your password, and then suddenly your account is compromised. And so just be careful what you download. If you, in a similar vein, like if you want to download and try some potentially shady software, often, I have like another Windows box. I feel lots of Windows software that you download, like shareware, can be a bit shady. Like create like a Windows VM, run it there. And even if it's not malware or malicious, sometimes these programs install just a bunch of crap on your system that you don't necessarily want. And so if you just want to like run a small program, you don't want like McAfee installed for the 5th time or whatever. So make your life nicer in the future, in the long run.
For phishing, it's really important, like just check the domain URL, right? I see so many fishes for Amazon, but the URL is sort of like different, but in a hurry, people just, when this thing happens, like get a pen drive for ₹1 or something. So anyway, just stay away, watch what you download. Good points.
Yeah, I think having a like if you have a larger company or an organization, even if you do put your password in and you have a second factor, you can't really do much for your password, but then just make sure that password you entered, you're not using everywhere else. And so that's kind of like why the password manager comes in helpful. And I'm kind of being guilty of that too. And then this is sort of another interesting one that came up recently, is also similar to what you download. Just be wary of some Chrome extensions within your main profile. And I say Chrome, but most browsers have an extension platform. And one of the reasons for this is, the Chrome and Chromium project have done a great job in making sort of Chrome a safe sandbox that many programs, they can't get access to your system. But when you download many extensions, they have full access to your DOM. They can like read which websites you're going to, what you're clicking. They can like change the page layout. So as we talk about phishing, you could click a link to Amazon, and a Chrome extension could technically rewrite all of your Amazon links to something else, either an affiliate if people are trying to make money, or if they want to be malicious, to another site that looks very much like your
What
Gmail.
are some of your favorite Chrome extensions?
I run very few Chrome extensions for this. Actually, you can see them here. So I have Okta, which is we use for our work login, 1Password, and then last up I just this. I was running this yesterday, which is a Google Tag Assistant. Actually, this last one I think has been warned that it's potentially risky. It's a live reload server, and so if you're developing locally, it will like
Yeah.
refresh your Chrome. But I did get a warning recently that it's it's quite privileged in what it's doing, so I probably shouldn't be running this in my sort of main work Chrome profile, and so like use other profiles.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about this profile thing? It's a new feature, right? And I don't use Chrome that much, but I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, so the Chrome profile is you can sort of like log in. So this is my work account. I have my personal one, and there is like some division of sort of where does your history go. But also, if you create like a guest profile, can be also sandboxed. So if I want to download a very shady extension, I'm actually sharing my screen. I don't think it's popping up, but if you click the head here, this is sort of a feature that supports it. And so in the guest profile, the sort of attack vector would be is you download a potentially malicious Chrome extension. Within that profile, it can only access data for that period of time for the guest. So if the guest profile is pretty empty, it can't really do that much. All right, and then coming up, last we have 12. I say, like, just use products that give you best practices out of the box. And I have this plug here, but before the plug, I think the better example would be, if you want to use Kubernetes, it's probably great to set up a little like home lab or Kubernetes yourself. But generally, it's better to use a hosted provider of Kubernetes than trying to manage it yourself. I work at Teleport. Teleport's also an open source company, so you can download and use it for free. And when I was talking about SSH certificates, it sounds so complicated. You go from like passwords to public-private keys to certificates. There's all these layers of like complexity. And what Teleport has done, similar to yourself, is we've just made all of that complexity sort of disappear and sort of run in one small program that sort of does everything for you without having to think about it.
Cool. And for Teleport, as I mentioned previously, we'll be doing. You can get started with the links in the description, and we'll be doing a separate session on it as well.
Yeah, I can give you a quick demo too if you want to at the end.
Yeah, that will work.
That's the end of my 12 tips. I think technically it was 13. But if you have any other tips, I would love to know. Like, please leave a comment below, and I'm always looking for new security tips. And so this is. So let me just log out of Teleport. And so Teleport is this sort of proxy which you run. I'm running this on the internet, and I'm logging in through GitHub, which is our community identity provider. So invite the rest of your team. And then here I have an inventory of a range of servers that I have. Obviously, I think this is an Ubuntu box. And here I am. So this is the browser based. You have the same thing on the terminal. And so you can sort of access systems similar to using just SSH and getting sort of root into the boxes. If I exit. And so even if you're a small team, this could be handy if you want to like pair. I can also like share this session with you. And then all of this information is recorded. If I exit this. Let me share my sessions. And I use this a lot to just like remind me of what I did, like the last week. So everything gets captured. So if I had to like run some like debugging on some sort of system and I was like hacking away at it, I kind of forgot. It's just super helpful to kind of keep like a logbook of what I did during the week.
And you can share these sessions like with your co-workers and stuff as well, right? So you can like, work together with them.
And also, like, often developer tools such as like Grafana, if you put this on the internet, there's not that many secrets, but it can be
Mhm.
sort of insecure. And Teleport can also sort of proxy these applications in a secure way, so only your team can get access to like your Grafana dashboards. Um, we have support for Kubernetes and databases, and so yeah, looking forward to doing a deeper dive in Teleport.
Cool. Awesome. Uh, Alrighty, well, Ben, thanks a lot for joining. This was great and a lot of amazing tips. For those who are watching, it'd be great if you could write a blog about it. It would be pretty cool. Just compile all the list of things that we spoke about, and make sure you subscribe because we'll be doing like more such sessions on Teleport. I'll be making one of my own dedicated video, so make sure you watch out for that. Ben, once again, thanks a lot for joining. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.
Cheers,
Bye.
thank you, it was a lot of fun.